A warm welcome to a quick demo on automation of workflow basics using a powerful tool called SharePoint Designer. This is a part of TechPost program to help you become free by knowing the tech basics and gain the respect power you need to live happily in the current and in the future times. So these are based on my past and present and future actual paid trainings. You learn over 100 plus technologies, and many say that my works are technically sound. And the beautiful thing is, many learners are becoming technically sound from my boot camp where they do the assignments. And stay till the end. I'm going to share about the workshops where you will be able to do and learn, some for free and some for paid. So let's understand about workflow now, the automation. Now, what is workflow or automation? So, automation is a simplified step by step process to achieve a goal without any manual labor. And SharePoint Designer has been chosen to help you understand automation or workflow. And SharePoint Designer is a wonderful all-in-one platform. You can create data, connect to external system, you can migrate, you can automate, you can do so many things. And but if you learn how to create a workflow here, you'll be able to do workflows in any tool, whether it's a Power Platform or Mintex or K2 or whatever tools are there in the market, you will be able to do. So old is gold. I'm choosing an old tool to help you understand the fundamentals, and you'll be able to master workflow or automation easily. So now why SharePoint Designer and why automation? So automation of workflow is necessary because uh, none of us really want to do the repetitive task. Humans want to do something interesting. So you're going to do the automation part. You're going to design the automation, and the code or the computer will do the boring things the repetitive way. And we can save a lot of manual labor. There's a lot of accuracy, and you save a lot of time, money, and efforts. And SharePoint Designer has been chosen because this is an all-in-one place where you can do so many things, and you don't have to know complex coding, okay, to do the complex workflows or automation. Now, coming to the real world applications in the organizations, the big organizations like Incutel, Hess, Coventry, and many organizations are using Scholastic, are using SharePoint Designer for maintaining or migrating or workflow or complex uh, processes using SharePoint Designer. And in the real world, even in my own business, I'm heavily using a lot of automation features without which it's impossible to handle thousands of customers. It's very easy to handle thousands or even millions with the power of automation. And so automation is very crucial in any business and for any organization. So that is also one of the blood of any business apart from sales. So let's move on to understand the benefits of SharePoint Designer. It is very useful for automation. You become more productive, and it's a step-by-step process. So I'll be explaining to you the fundamentals of automation of workflow using SharePoint Designer itself. And with a small demo, we are going to see a demo to understand where we create a small workflow application. You'll be learning a lot of concepts about the automation. And so let's jump into the demo. So I've just launched the SharePoint site of one of my student, Kalyani. And so here, this is a SharePoint site. You have the site, you have list and libraries, that is the data, then is the workflows. So in the workflows, you'll be able to design workflows on the data like the list or even the site workflow where the workflow is starting from the site. And you have various objects. So coming to the SharePoint Designer, it's a very powerful tool where you can actually create the data like list and libraries right from the SharePoint Designer. And you can create site, you can actually manage the site, you can create connect to external systems using external content type, and the master pages are here for designing. And there's so much of things you could do previously. SharePoint Design was even more beautiful where it was a designer product where I could see the HTML view and actually design it then and there. As so old is actually gold. The older versions were really good, but even now, SharePoint is still alive. Though Microsoft is pushing everyone to move to Power Automate and latest tools, designer is still there, and even now many organizations come to me for advice, and SharePoint designer is very useful to save the company from any critical situations where you need to migrate and you're stuck somewhere, and SharePoint designer can also come in the way to do certain analysis. And so many people around the world from Ukraine, UAE, Australia, USA, they still uh, try to use SharePoint designers for some of the business requirements. So let's jump into a simple workflow. So you have various workflows like list workflow, recycle workflow, cycle. So when I say automation or workflow, it actually happens on some data. So workflow, most of the common workflow in real world is to get an approval. For example, let's say you are taking leave in your organization. So you generally will have a leave approval workflow where you're going to upload the leave information in some place, and it will go to the manager, and after the manager approves, you will be allowed to take leave, or you have expense approval and a lot of complex process. Let's say client onboarding process. Let's say I get a lot of students or a lot of clients into my system. So I can have a system, automated system to send them a welcome mail and to give them email reminders or email to move them to a journey. For example, if you're one of part of my tech circle, I'll be sending weekly videos, which is currently manual, but slowly it might be automated in Telegram groups. So there are powerful automations to actually automate various content also with the power of technology. So now coming to SharePoint, we are just going to understand the fundamentals. So in workflows, you have many concepts. Okay, let's say we are going to do a site workflow. So when you say automation of workflow, we have something called trigger. So I'm just going to start a simple workflow tree, and we call it SharePoint 2030 Designer. We're going to look at the 2030, not 2010 version. And we are going to create a simple workflow on the site object. That is, it is based on the site level and not at the list level. So when you create a workflow, it is actually uh, acting on some objects, and it has a start. So when is the workflow going to start? So it is going to start when the new item is created in a list, or when the site is created, and you need to have a start event. So here, or you can start it manually. It can be automatic or manual. And in a workflow, you can have various things called, the most important thing is actions. So as I explained before, one of them can be email, where the email is triggered to the manager and the manager is approving. Or we can do more things like calculation. We can log into the history list, and we can add an item to other list when certain event happens, and there are many more things like check in, check out. So the actions, there are certain actions that happens, and without coding we'll be able to do. And we can have conditions and loops. So and we have various stages also. So each actions, we can have multiple actions in various stages. So now we have a site workflow, and let's say and we have conditions also, and we are not going to look at the complex conditions now. So we are just going to let's say we're going to add an item to a list. So and we're just going to create a list item, and let's say when the site workflow starts, I'm just going to the workflow one list, and I'm just going to add set this field title to uh, let's say Apple. Okay, so whenever I start this workflow, I'm going to add this particular value into the list. And okay, and there is another concept called variable. So whenever you have workflow, you can have a local variable or global variable specific to the particular workflow itself. So now from this we can have let's say go to a stage. Now we are going to the next stage, stage 2. So stage 1, we are just going to create an item into a list. So whenever you're doing any coding or any process, it's good to actually log the value. So we are just going to now log the data into the list. So log the message. We are going to say that item added in WF1 list. So it's just a simple demo where we have some stages, actions or steps, step-by-step process, and finally we are going to end it. So go to, and we are going to the stage end of the work. So you have a start step and a series of steps, and you can have conditions, if else conditions. So if there is a condition, If some value is true, we are going to do this step, else we are going to do something else. So keep the workflow process simple. That will be covering in the best practices. So this is a series of steps, and then finally we're going to end it. So to take the case of the real world example, let's say a new client is coming. So the welcome mail will be sent to the client, and then weekly some content can be sent, and then it can be a loop that can go on for 1 year, like 365 days, if it is a 365-day program. Or if you are taking leave, then sample example, an email is sent to the manager. So if the manager is approving, the email is sent to you saying the leave is approved. Else, the email is sent to you telling leave is not approved. And so that is one another example. So depending on your business requirements, you can have many workflows. So I've just shared this example to help you understand the common actions in a workflow. So that I'm just telling you simple principle you need to follow. You need to make sure that you design the workflow well, and then you actually test the workflow, and then you maintain the workflow, and finally you're going to publish it. So as a good process, make sure that you follow some best practices that I'm going to share soon. So now we have published the workflow. We're going to test it soon now. So there is some time gap to actually process for publishing. So now let's go to the site workflows. And there are a couple of workflows that are running. So let's see. So a workflow can be in three stages, starting, running, and completed. So now look at the simple, so I've now clicked it, so it's going to manually start. So currently there are, in the running workflows, there are no, this is currently running now, and slowly it's going to finish also. Let's quickly, let's see the started stage. And so what's happening here, it is showing that now it's actually completed and the item added in workflow one list. So let's quickly go to the workflow one list and see what has happened. And see, I can see that the value apple is added. Okay, and so we have actually added the value apple. So in the real world, this particular workflow itself can be very helpful for many problems that can come in the SharePoint, or to create a nice workflow for automation. So whatever tool it is, whether it is SharePoint Designer or Nintex or K2 or Power Automate, the concepts are the same. You might have a trigger. When is it going to start the workflow? Next, what are the stages and the step-by-step process? And then what are the conditions and what are the workflow variables? And so we'll go back and look at some of the best practices now. So it is very important to plan well, and old is gold. So and I would say don't have a complex UI and all, because I remember I have done Visual Studio workflows for big organizations, and the manager was literally forcing they somewhere wanting it, somewhere not wanting it. Uh, but finally, the clients were not happy with the UI of Visual Studio. So a lot of efforts were put, and we really pushed hard for days and nights and got it completed. And the manager really wanted it. He pushed very hard, but UI wasn't good in Visual Studio workflow. So make sure that if the UI is not there if needed for workflows or the process, and follow the processes well, and keep it simple, and keep the foundation strong. Think of a long-lasting workflow. So in the future, we have it's more easier, more AI is coming, drag and drop. You don't need to know coding. It's all going to be very easy. So thank you so much. You're an awesome automator. So if you need a workflow class, you can register in thangu.com/DTA and mention the instant or exclusive or crash course or 21-day or 90-day program you need. Or you can join my tech circle group or register for the tech workshops from thangu.com/tech workshops, where I'm going to plan mostly the automation workshops soon. And you'll be having step-by-step assignments on a 3-day or 5-day program. So thank you so much. Wish you grand success. So keep watching the description box for any interview questions and other features and other online courses. So take care. Bye-bye.